you think the European Union is worth it? Or should we end it? Many people feel a strong disconnect with the EU, while others praise its achievements. Everything considered, is its existence good or bad for Europeans? Since it looks like the UK is leaving the EU, we'll mostly treat it as if it's no longer part of the club. The European Union, combining its 27 member countries, has a population of about 450 million people, making it the third most populous sort of country in the world. It's the world's second largest economy by GDP and has the biggest single market in the world. But originally, the creation of the European Union was all about one thing: peace. Europeans are really good at war, so they were embroiled in bloody conflicts for basically all their history. A century-long rivalry between Germany and France alone cost millions of lives and ran so deeply that Germans invented their own word for it: Erbfeindschaft. After the Second World War, Europeans decided they wanted lasting peace that was not based on a balance of military power. Instead, the economies, politics and peoples of Europe should become so closely interconnected that war would become both impractical and unthinkable. The plan worked. Between EU members, we've had over 70 years of peace. Okay, peace is great and all, but what are the European Union's achievements and problems? Today, EU citizens benefit from many individual freedoms. EU treaties and regulations ensure easy travel, cheap telecommunications, a great variety of goods and services, as well as very strong health and safety standards. European institutions are not afraid to pick a fight with companies such as Microsoft, Apple or Facebook about fair competition, tax evasion or data protection. Through the EU science programs, the European countries became a collaborative engine that serves as a hub of science in the wider world. Unrestricted travel and the right to work anywhere makes it easy to apply for funds and set up international teams of experts with the best equipment. In turn, the EU became the world leader in terms of its global share of science researchers and produces more than 25% of the world's research output with only 5% of its population. But many citizens feel distrust towards the EU. Brussels seems far away and untransparent, technocratic and difficult to understand. It doesn't help that the EU is terrible at outreach and explaining what it actually does. This disconnect has also led to an ever-shrinking voter turnout over the decades. More transparency and accountability are desperately needed if the EU institutions want the trust of their citizens. Currently, the EU is still shaken by the refugee crisis of 2015. Some countries have accepted far greater numbers of asylum seekers than others, while the border countries are overwhelmed and feel left alone. Other countries are shocked by the initially unregulated mass immigration and closed their borders, effectively shutting down the largest route into Europe. The EU's wealth and freedom make it an attractive destination, and this is unlikely to change. The population is split on how to react to that. Some argue that Europe let in too many immigrants with a different culture without strictly demanding integration, while others argue that immigration is not the problem, but that racism and discrimination of immigrants is preventing integration. To strike a balance between helping refugees, turning illegal immigrants away, and successfully integrating the ones that stay remains one of the most difficult and controversial challenges of the Union. Immigration aside, many more challenges lie in the future, like defense. Traditionally, European countries have relied strongly on the protection of the US through NATO. But in the current political climate, Europe has to ask itself if it really wants to depend on the United States for its safety. If combined today, the militaries of EU members could form an effective defensive force and be the third largest military in the world. That could save a lot of money, safeguard European borders, and enhance cultural understanding with soldiers from 27 different countries serving one common purpose. What about money? Well, it's complicated. The EU created the largest single market in the world. Inside it, you can trade border and customs free. Countries that entered it got a massive boost to their economies. Even between neighbours, trade increased by up to 500% and there was a steady creation of new jobs. Research has suggested that joining the EU has left most new members with an average of a 12% higher GDP than if they had remained outside. And for those regions with weaker economies and poor infrastructure, EU institutions provide billions of euros every year, helping economic investment, infrastructure and social development. On the negative side, the EU tries to hold together countries with vastly different economies and laws regarding labour, taxes and social security. The cost of 1 hour of work in an EU country ranges from €4 an hour to €40 an hour. Some countries have large industries and strong exports, while others focus on services, tourism or natural resources. On top of this, the euro is the common currency of some, but not all of these countries. As the Greek crisis shows, this can be a recipe for disaster. You cannot unify vastly different economies under one currency, but leave their economic policies separate. So, should all EU countries unite under the common currency or not? Should the weakest links be thrown out of the euro, or should countries be made to adopt common policies on taxes, healthcare and social security? It's a question that's been brewing for years and is nowhere near a solution. So, everything briefly considered, is the European Union worth it?
So, what do the Big Four think about it? In a recent survey made to 6,000 people in France, Italy, Germany and Spain about whether they would like to leave the European Union or not, they found out that Italy would be the most likely of the Big Four members to consider leaving the European Union if Brexit proved to be beneficial to Britain. Data from the Redfield and Wilton strategies found that nearly half of Italians support their country leaving the European Union if the UK is in good health in 5 years. France and Spain both showed moderate support, while Germany was the least likely of the four to consider leaving the Union. The former TV journalist Gianluigi Pragone launched his Ital Exit Party on July 23, just 2 days after Italy secured a considerable amount of the EU's €750 billion recovery fund to help stable its pandemic-hit economy. Ital Exit promised to free Italy from the cage of the European Union and its single currency. The growing Ital Exit Party have modeled itself on Nigel Farage's Brexit Party in the UK and hopes for similar success. Originally elected in 2018 as a senator for the populist Five Star Movement, Ital Exit founder and leader Pragone became an independent in the Senate earlier this year, having been expelled from his party after he opposed to joining the pro-EU Democratic Party in government. In the same survey, they asked how likely they will vote in a referendum to leave the EU. Germany registered the highest pro-EU sentiment with 67%, followed by Spain with 63% and France with 47%. Italy was the lowest one with 43%. In my opinion, even though the European Union is not perfect and still need to work a lot in different aspects like the political barriers, the unemployment, the differences in the economic performance, the cost of introduction, in order to engage younger citizens to the idea of the institution. Also to show transparency to them, to show that what they are doing is right. I believe that the European Union made countries stronger by reducing the probability of going to war. Having one currency reduces the monetary instability. Also strengthens each country in their international field. Having the European Union allows the country to go into a negotiation with China or United States with the same capacities of negotiation. Also, the freedom of movement allows citizens to have access to different education resources, and as we saw in the video, they create these dynamics with science which benefits the European Union. Also, different countries produce different things, rather like agricultural or cars or different. They have different abilities, and having the European Union allow them to access to more resources without the tariffs, without the barriers, without the problems that bring to individual countries. And they also have access to subsidies, and the larger countries won't dominate the smaller ones because they're all treated as equal. I also think that what is happening now with the Italy exit, or the idea of France leaving, or Spain leaving, is something that the younger generations believe, because they get to see the outcomes of the European Union, but they didn't saw the process or how the European Union was before it was created, how the countries were in war all the time, and how things were difficult for them. But nowadays they only enjoyed the good stuff and the good outcomes of it, and they don't understand why it's good. So maybe by engaging younger generations to the idea and making them more involved in the process will be a good solution to stop these ideas of Italy exit, or France exit, or Spain exit, or any other country who wants to exit the European Union.